A King and a Court of Fools by H. Ryan, written by Larry Enright and read by Larry Enright. Copyright 2011, all rights reserved. "17 Cartoons." The Harris was built in 1921 as a vaudeville theater. When vaudeville died in the early 1930s, it was converted to a movie house. Its facade had 4 imposing church-like windows inset into the white stone above a shiny chrome and neon marquee that named the current feature. In the outside lobby, there was a metal and glass box office, front and center, flanked by colorful and exciting billboards announcing the coming attractions. Behind the booth were the glass doors that opened precisely 15 minutes before the show began. That was just enough time to buy candy, go to the bathroom, and find a seat. Inside, there was a room for 650 people on the main floor and 250 in the balcony. The theater had a magnificent crystal chandelier, deep red plush carpet, ushers in sports jackets and ties, and a booming Wurlitzer organ that some old guy played before every show. It was a landmark in the neighborhood and the place to be Saturday mornings if you were a kid. Imagine hundreds of kids lined up outside the theater around the block and down the street waiting for the doors to open. These were the kids who had already gone through the other line, the ticket line. Now imagine being so far back in that line you can't even see the theater. And you can see the end of the line because you are the end of the line. These were the Caswells. Sam jumped up and down, trying to see if he knew anyone in the line ahead. "I can't believe it. I got the last ticket. What are the chances of that? I'm going to put this baby in my scrapbook." "Does it say last ticket anywhere on it?" "How's anyone going to know?" Braithwaite faked a punch and Sam flinched. "You flinched. I call free hit." Sam took the real punch on the shoulder without moving. "I'll know." "I'm just saying, how are you going to prove it?" "You hit like a girl with a wet noodle." "There's Jill. Hi, Jill." Kate pushed Sam away from Braithwaite before it went any further and waved to a girl from her class who was farther up the line. "When are we going to you-know-where, Tom?" "We'll talk about it at Isley's after the show." A cheer rolled through the kids in front of us and the line started moving, hundreds moving as one. It was exciting. 17 cartoons, one after another. "Why do they show 17 cartoons, Tommy?" Tom looked at me like I had just flown in from the moon. "They always show 17 cartoons." "Why?" "They just do." Big Bob picked me up and threw me over his shoulder. "It's because they don't let kids over 17 in, midget." "Put me down, Bib Bog." "No, it isn't," Bobby Face said. "It's because they can't fit any more on the projector. It would blow up. I saw that happen once." "You did not. You don't know what you're talking about, Bobby," Wayne said. "That's how many cartoons 25 cents will buy. My dad told me so." Mary added her opinion. "Silly, it's how many you can watch in an hour." "What's so special about an hour?" Wayne asked. Without hesitation, Kate had his answer. "That's the average attention span of a 6th grader, Wayne." "Shut up, Kate. Kate always late." "You shut up, Wayne. Wayne has no brain." "Come on, guys, we're falling behind." Sam was right. A good 20 feet had opened up between the rest of the line and us. Big Bob put me down and we ran to catch up. Imagine a line of hundreds of unsupervised children moving with minimal disruptions around the block and through the glass doors into the theater. Now imagine a room full of hundreds of kids all trying to find the best seat in the house at the same time, with only a handful of teenage ushers in sports jackets to keep the peace. We were inside and looking for our seats within 5 minutes to spare. All the best seats were taken, the front row, the back row, and all the aisle seats, so we settled for something in the middle. I had to go to the bathroom. The others saved our places, and Tom took me. When we got there, he tried to get me to go faster, but it doesn't work like that. If anything, saying pee faster makes it harder to go. The newsreel had started by the time we came out into the restroom hallway. Tom was mad. He was like Dad that way. If you miss the beginning, what's the point of going at all? Frankie Marks, Bonnie, and Greg Finnerty were there in the hall in front of the girls' room. Greg's back was to us. He was pushing Frankie, and Frankie was just taking it and looking anywhere but in Greg's eyes. Bonnie looked scared, really scared. "Stop it, Greg. Leave us alone." Greg rolled his sleeve up over his right shoulder muscle. Not a good sign. "Who's gonna make me? Your boyfriend?" He shoved Frankie again. Frankie just stared at the floor like a beaten puppy. "What's the matter, Marks? No guts? What kind of lily-livered chicken are you that you won't fight for your girl?" "She's not his girl, Finnerty. They weren't holding hands. Tom surprised Greg from behind, pushed him into the wall, and ran." "You'll pay for this, Ryan," Greg shouted and took off after Tom. Tom ran through a door that said no admittance, down a set of 3 stairs and past an employee-only sign into a long hallway that ran the width of the theater behind and a little below the screen. The cars on the newsreel were driving down the wrong side of the street, and the words at the bottom of the screen were backwards. 1,000 car horns were beeping at once, and everyone in the theater was laughing. I wanted to stop and see what was so funny, but Tom was losing us. He leapt up the 3 steps at the end of the hall and hit the panic bar on the exit door in full stride. Bright morning light from the street behind the theater flooded the dark hall. I couldn't see a thing for a second. I stopped. Greg tripped on the steps and yelled something that sounded like sun on the beach. He regained his footing and made the exit door before it had fully closed, kicked it open, and rushed out of the theater after Tom. The exit doors on the Harris Theater were kid-proof, designed to prevent anyone from sneaking in unless they had help from the inside. They locked automatically when they closed, and could not be opened from the outside without a key. By the time I got there, the door had clicked shut and locked. Darkness returned to the hall, and my eyes adjusted to the creepy moving lights and shadows caused by the cartoons that had started playing. Even the music was scary. Someone screamed from the balcony, and another kid started to cry that he wanted his mommy. I had to follow Tom, but I was afraid. I had to help him, but I didn't know what good I'd be against Greg Finnerty. Greg would beat him up again, just like he had in the graveyard. It hadn't been just one punch. It had been a lot of punches. Tom just wouldn't admit it. Greg would beat me up, too, but I had to try. I went to open the door, but someone grabbed me and pulled me back against the wall. "Don't," Tom whispered. "He can't get back in." He was out of breath, but he was laughing. Greg pounded on the door from the outside. "Let me in, jerkface. I know you're in there." Tom held his finger to his lips to let me notice not to say anything. "If you don't let me in right now, I'm going to pound you to a pulp." We snuck quietly away and down the steps, across the theater and back to the restrooms. Tom wanted to make sure Bonnie was okay, but no one was there. So he took me to the lobby, and we waited behind a curtain near the concession stand, a dangerous place for a kid to hang out. The smell of hot buttered popcorn was overwhelming. The bright colors on the candy boxes, the words delicious and tantalizing, the buy one get one free specials. It was a good thing for our stomachs that Mary had the Caswell's money. The doors to the outside were locked, and the full sign was hanging in the window. The lights were off in the metal and chrome box office. The people working the concession stand were cleaning up, and an usher was sweeping up popcorn from the red carpet into a dustpan. He looked up when Greg appeared at the doors. "Hey, let me in." The usher pointed to the sign and went back to sweeping. "Come on, let me in. I was inside already." Tom looked at me. "A quarter says he snuck in and doesn't have a ticket." The usher was annoyed. He walked over to the door. "Then what are you doing out there?" "I went to the wrong door. Come on, let me back in." "Let's see your ticket." "I left it inside with my buddies. Come on, be a pal." "Nice try." The usher shook his head and went back to work. Greg rattled the doors one last time and left. We went back into the theater, found the others, and sat down. We'd missed the newsreel and the first 3 cartoons. A Woody Woodpecker was next, but Tom didn't seem interested. He kept looking around the theater for something. I wondered if the other Finnertys were there somewhere. Someone behind us finally told him to sit still, and he did, and sat slumped down in his seat with his arms folded and eyes closed while the rest of the 17 cartoons played. Nothing equals the speed at which a theater full of kids can empty out. The only job the ushers have at that point is to hold the doors open and stay out of the way. We joined the river of loud, laughing kids in the aisle, heading toward the exits, and poured out in a stream of joyful energy into the street behind the Harris. The plan had been to go to Isley's after the show, but Tom said he didn't feel like it anymore. Wayne, Big Bob, Bobby Fay, and Braithwaite decided that they would head over to St. Margaret's. There was a ball game against St. Bernard's that they wanted to see. The crowd thinned out about a block away from the theater. Bonnie was waiting on the corner to cross the street. When she saw Tom, she ran over to him. "Where did you go? I was so worried about you." Tom put his hands in his pockets and shrugged. "Are you okay?" Bonnie kissed him on the cheek. "Thanks for saving me." "Where's Frankie?" She whispered in his ear, but we all heard it. "He had an accident in his pants." "You mean he peed himself?" "Or the other one?" Wayne couldn't stop laughing. Tom scowled. "Shut up, Wayne. It wasn't funny." "What happened?" Mary asked Bonnie. "Greg Finnerty was being mean to us, and Tom made him stop." "What'd you do, Tom? Hit him in the fist with your face?" "That's funny, Braithwaite. I'd like to see you stand up to Greg Finnerty." "Tommy pushed him and made him leave the movie," I said. "So he didn't hit you?" Kate asked. Tom shook his head. "No, Katie. He never even touched Tommy." Big Bob patted him on the back. "That's real hero stuff, Tom. Like John Wayne or King Arthur." Bonnie smiled at Tom. "I was going to go to Isley's with Frankie after the show, but he went home. Would you like to go with me?" "Yeah, sure. We were going there anyway, right, guys? You can tag along." We split up. The 4 others went to St. Margaret's to watch the ball game, and we went to Isley's. And the Caswells' respect for Tom grew that day. He had fearlessly stood up to the bad guy, come to the aid of a damsel in distress, saved his sworn arch-enemy from a fate worse than death, and given up 17 cartoons, all in the same day.